welkom terug bij deel 2 van die vorige video. Welcome back to part 2. Alright, so we are on question 1.4, which asks you to write the following in scientific notation. So skryf die volgende in wetenskaplike notasie. Alright, so I wrote down the question so long, so let's have a look. Alright, so remember, whenever you have to write something in scientific notation, it means you have to have one thing in front of a comma and then the rest behind the comma. Alright, so looking at this, my comma is at the moment here. So if I want to put it, only have one thing in front of my comma, I have to move it to there. So now my first part will be 4,158. Alright, then it's always scientific notation is times 10. Now I just have to count how many places did it move. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it will be to the power of negative 6. And there you did it. Okay, so met wetenskaplike notasie, onthou dat moet altyd slegs een ding voor die komma wees. So ons moet ons komma al die pad van die afskryf tot na my eerste getal. So dan word dit 4,158 maal 10, want dit is wetenskaplike notasie. En dan kyk ons hoeveel plekke moet hy skuif. So hy moes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plekke skuif. En omdat hy agter toe skuif, word dit tot die mag minus 6. Okay, just a side note, if this was switched around, so let's say it was 4, 1, 5, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I had to write this in scientific notation, the same concept would have applied. Alright, so now I have to put it there, because there's one thing in front of my comma, and then the rest is behind it, so it would be 4,158. However, now I have to see how many things is behind my comma. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it will be to the power of 9. Do you see the difference between this question and this question? So when you have 0, something, 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 then it will be to the power of negative 6. However, if it's a positive number, meaning it is 4, and your zeros are at the back, then you know it's going to be to the power of a positive number. Alright, so scientific notation isn't difficult, just make sure you know how to do it. Alright, then we're going back to question 1.5, where they say calculate the value of the following if x is minus 5 and y is equal to 2. And then here they give you your formula. Alright, so obviously what you have to do in this case is just substitution. So wherever I have an x, I have to substitute in a negative 5. So vir ook al ek 'n x het, moet ek 'n minus 5 vervang. And then wherever I have a y, I have to substitute a 2. So vir ook al ek 'n y het, moet ek 'n 2 in vervang. So that means I will have in x's place, it will become minus 5, remember your brackets, square. In y's place, it will become 2 to the power of 2, remember your brackets. When it's minus 5, once again in x's place, I'm going to put a negative 5. In y's place, I'm putting a 2, remember your brackets, plus 4. So the most important thing you need to see here is to remember your brackets. Now we can just calculate this, so this will become 25 times 4, minus 5 times minus 5 becomes plus 25, times 2 becomes plus 50, plus 4, so this will give me 154. Remember, you can always use your calculator to check if you're doing the correct thing. Alright, so question 1 usually isn't difficult, and this is definitely where you have to score at least 80% of the marks. Alright, now let's move on to question 2. Alright, so question 2 is all about simplification, working out your brackets, etc. Alright, so the word vereenvoudig in Afrikaans means simplification in English, or simplify, which in other words means get rid of your brackets. I don't want to see your brackets anymore. Alright, so I wrote down question 2.1.1. So we know that we have to take our first term, which is x, and we have to multiply it with every term in my second bracket. So I have to take the x, multiply it with the x squared. I have to take the x, multiply it with the 2x, and I have to take the x and multiply it with the plus 4. Alright, so jy by die x vat, en jy moet het maal met elke term in jou tweede hakie. So as ek sê x maal x kwadraat, dan kry ek x tot die mag 3. Dan as ek sê x maal plus 2x word het plus 2x tot die mag 2. En dan x maal 4 word plus 4x. Alright, so there we multiplied the first half. Then we're going to do the same, so we take our second term, which is negative 2, and we're going to multiply that with the x squared, multiply that with your 2x, and multiply that with your plus 4. So doing this, I will get minus 2x squared, minus 2 times 2x becomes minus 4x, and then minus 2 times positive 4 becomes negative 8. Alright, now that everything is multiplied out, we have to get our like terms together. So here I have an x squared, here I have an x squared, here I have a normal x, and here I have another normal x. So my final answer will be x to the power of 3, 2 minus 2 is 0, so my x squared falls away, 4 minus 4 is 0, that falls away, and then I'm left with only a minus 8. And then this is your final answer. Alright, so jy moet net die gelyksoortige terme kry, so dit van dieselfde is. So ons het 'n x kwadraat en 'n x kwadraat, 2 minus 2 is 0, so dit val weg. En dan het ek 'n plus 4x, minus 4x, 4 minus 4 is 0, so dit val ook weg. Alright, let's have a look at question 2.1.2. So once again, the question is also telling you to simplify. Alright, so the first thing you always have to do is your brackets. Die eerste ding wat jy altyd moet doen is jou hakies. Okay, so kom ons begin. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take this 3a and I want to multiply it into my bracket. So I'm going to have 3a times a becomes 3a squared. So 3 tot die mag 2. And then 3a times negative 8 becomes negative 24a. We cannot do anything with this, so we're just going to rewrite it, so it's plus 3a squared. Alright, then we move on to our next part. Now I have a negative 4, so I have to multiply negative 4 into my bracket. So it's going to be negative 4 times a, which becomes negative 4a, and then negative 4 times negative 1, so minus 4 more minus 1, becomes positive 4, and then I'm left with minus a to the power of 3. Now that everything is multiplied out, we're going to get our like terms. So here I have an I squared, here I have an a squared, here I have a normal a, here I have a normal a, and then there I have a 4, and there I have an a to the power of 3. Alright, so 3 plus 3 will give me 6a squared, minus 24a, minus another 4a will give me minus 28a. Then I have my plus 4 and my minus a to the power of 3. Alright, so even though these questions look intimidating, they're actually quite simple. It's always exactly the same thing. Alright, so going back to question 2.1.3, once again I also have another bracket, except now I also have my imaginary numbers. I have an I. But we're going to do exactly the same thing, so just imagine that that is actually an x. So I'm going to say minus 2i times 5, so I can say minus 2i mal 5, wat word minus 10i, so minus 10a. But I'm also going to take my minus 2i, multiply with negative 3i, so minus 2 times negative 3 becomes positive 6, I times I will become I squared. Now the only catch is you need to remember that I squared is equal to minus 1. So jy moet net onthou dat I tot die mag 2 gelyk is aan minus 1. So wherever I have an I squared, I now have to substitute it with a minus 1. So I actually have minus 10i plus 6 bracket minus 1. And if I calculate this, it will give me 6 times minus 1 is negative 6. So waar ook al ek I tot die mag 2 het, gaan ek 'n minus 1 in vervang, en dan word dit net 6 mal minus 1 wat vir my minus 6 gee. Alright, so this is it for part 2 of the video. So please come back for part 3 where we continue with this question paper.